Okay guys, today we're back and we're going to do a short tutorial on setting your video card settings in your specific whatever your manufacturer is, AMD, NVIDIA, in your control panel. A lot of you aren't getting the most out of your video card. You're getting a lot of performance because you're just running the default setups, and you really shouldn't be running your cards in the default way, because you lose a lot of texture detail in games, and there's a way to get you'll take a few frames per second hit, but you'll get more quality out of your textures. Your games will look better if you set these settings up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the AMD first, then I'm going to go over to my wife's machine and set up everything, and because she has an NVIDIA card, I have an AMD in mine, and we're going to look at these specific settings here. So here we have the anti-aliasing mode. You want to have that to user, use the application settings. Both of these, the anti-aliasing samples, you want that to be also on use application settings. And then we come down to filter, and you have you want that to be on standard. Anti-aliasing method, you have a few here that you can actually change. I like to use the super sampling method because I don't use anti-aliasing in most games unless the game is just so bad that the aliasing is just so bad that I have to use it. But if I do like to use it, I like to make sure that my super sampling, or I should say my anti-aliasing, is the best that it can be, and so I like to set that to super sampling. It doesn't have any if you're like me and you don't use anti-aliasing, which you really shouldn't if you're on a gamer on the budget, unless the game just the aliasing in is just so bad, the jaggies are so bad, you shouldn't use them. It gives you more performance and it makes your textures look good if you set your card up. Now here's the most important thing. I see a lot of you guys turning your anisotropic filtering down. Anisotropic filtering is a wonderful thing. It really does clear up the textures in most games. Like when you're looking at the floors, especially on AMD cards, you should always be running this at full 16 by. The performance hit is 2 frames at the most. It's about 1.5 frames. There's no reason in the world for you to run this at anything less than 16 by. You should not be putting it down to 8, 4, or whatever. You're not gaining any kind of performance really, and you're making your textures look worse, more blurry. This clears your textures up, and this one right here is the biggest one. I think it comes in set on standard, I do believe, which is the middle setting, but you want your textures to be on the highest quality, because the majority of you, and now we're talking about cheap video cards, even a HD 7750. The texture filtering quality, and NVIDIA has the same exact thing. You guys should be setting these things to the highest possible quality, because you don't get you get a very small performance hit, very small, and we're talking like maybe 4 frames from doing this at the most. But you will gain your just do your tests. Look at your games. You'll see that your games will look beautiful if you set this to high quality, and there's no reason for you to not be running it, because the performance hit is very minimal, very minimal. So you should be running this at highest. Your texture filtering should be set at the highest quality. This makes the biggest impact in games as far as what you're visually looking at. Your surface format optimization, this will be on at default for AMD cards, but you really don't need to have it, because all it does is it blurs out some of the surfaces to give you better performance. And the performance hit is very minimum. I'm talking maybe 1 frame, if that. So you should always have this off. Let's see here, vertical sync. I'm gonna do an extra video. I'm gonna do another video on vertical sync. Make a long story short is, if the game that you're running, the majority of you guys are going to have monitors or TVs that are going to be running at 60 hertz, and you want to match up your refresh rate with your the VSync of your video card. So, and you want both of those running at 60. If the game that you're running is running at 60 plus, there's no reason that you shouldn't have VSync on. There's no reason that you should not. I've gotten a lot of videos where guys have asked me, why are you running VSync? VSync is, it takes away the screen tearing, and it is something that really makes your videos look crappy. They run with like little hiccups in them, little stutters, and it'll take all that stuff away. As long as the game, your monitor refresh rate's at 60, and then the FPS of your games is at 60. You match them up, it lines everything up, and everything looks better, it plays better. You should always use it if your game is running over 60 frames per second. OpenGL triple buffering is something that it improves the frame rate of games if the refresh rate is less than what your monitor's putting out. So you should always have that on, because it'll help a little bit when the frames drop below about 50 in games. So you should always have that on. Texelation mode. Texelation really doesn't cost that much either. It's one of those things that costs about 3 to 4 frames depending on the game that you're using. I always put it to max. Even running on a 7750, I haven't really noticed any slowdown in games, and we're talking about running on AMD processors as well as Intel processors. So this really, how I have this set up is exactly, you should copy this exactly, and you should do the same thing for the NVIDIA side. So I'm gonna cut the video, and I'll post the next one for the NVIDIA settings also. Thanks for watching.